Hi there, Ben McAdam from ProfitsCollective.com, and in this video I want to talk to you about that productivity with the boxes thing. Everyone's kind of seen it, but very few people know what it's called, and it's a good time to revisit this. So it's called the Eisenhower Matrix, but it's basically a productivity tip that helps you work out whether you're spending your time on the right things and helping you to allocate it. So I'm going to share my screen and walk you through it. So it looks like this. We got a box and it's divided into 4 quadrants. And across the top we got urgency. So this column is urgent and this column is not urgent. And then in the rows we've got important and not important. So each of these quadrants is where 2 of these things intersect. And let me just put some numbers on, because it can be a helpful way to say which quadrant are you in right now. Are you in Q1 doing urgent and important things? Are you in Q4 doing things that aren't urgent and that are not important? Apparently this is attributed to President Eisenhower, made popular from the book Stephen Covey's Habits book. So the idea is that you want to be in one of these quadrants and you want to avoid a lot of the other quadrants. So let's go through what they are. In the not urgent and not important, what you're basically doing here, it's all waste. You're wasting your time. In the urgent but not important, you're still not doing things that are important, so they're not things that are going to move you forward and improve your life or improve your business. You're still working on not important things, but now you're working on the things that are urgent. And what this feels like is busyness. Oh, I was doing so well not hitting that button. Feels like busyness. You're super busy, you're doing stuff, you don't have time for the important things because you're working on all the not important urgent stuff. Then if we go up to Q1, things that are urgent and important, what you're feeling here is productive, because you're getting things done that are important and you're doing them by the deadlines. So you're working on important and urgent things. So it's kind of like the opposite of waste. You're not wasting your time, you're being very productive with your time. So what does that mean about the last quadrant? The things that are important but not urgent. The stuff that happens in here is growth. Important and urgent is kind of like maintenance, like you keeping on top of things, but the stuff that helps you grow is usually not urgent. There's no urgency around getting a promotion for most people who work. There's no urgency about launching a new product line compared to like dealing with all the stuff you've got to do in your business right now. So the not urgent important stuff is where growth happens, and it's really, really important. So what do you do? Now that you know what each quadrant is like, and where we want to be is Q2, let's talk about what do you do if you find yourself in each of these. So if you're in Q4, you want to delete whatever the thing is that you're doing. Is not important and it's not urgent, so don't do it. Just delete it. I'll make it red so you can see the whole point is we want to get rid of this stuff. If you are in Q3, dealing with things that are urgent but not important, you're feeling busy, you delegate or automate those. It's not important that you do them, but they're urgent, so they need to get done. So I'm going to make that orange. Whoops. Highlighter, I'm going to make that orange. So other people or automated systems take care of that for you. So this kind of, part of where I got this from, just to take a little break from this lovely diagram I'm drawing, part of where I got this from is I've been going on a binge on the Wait But Why blog by Tim Urban, and waiting through months since his last post, but they're always good when they come out. And I came across his procrastination stuff, and he went through this. He called it the procrastination matrix. So you can go check out that article, because he has a really good way of describing it. And for him, it's like defeating his procrastination habits as well, which is a different spin on how I'm doing it here. It also overlaps a little bit with Tim Ferriss, the guy who wrote the 4-Hour Workweek, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef, Tribe of Mentors and Tools of Titans. I had to look on my bookshelf. His productivity framework is eliminate, automate, delegate, and then do it yourself. And there's kind of an overlap here in what I'm covering. So let's go. What happens if you find yourself in Q1? What do you need to do? Well, you need to just do it. Do those things. Do it yourself. Do it efficiently. Make sure they get done, because they are important. They are important and urgent. So we're just going to do those. This kind of lines up, these colors line up with the way I highlight my notes. Orange is someone else or something else has to do it. Yellow is I have to do it. I don't know if you've got a system like that, but the colors help things stand out for me. And then in Q2, the things that are not urgent but they're important, where you find your growth, the key here is that you make time. Actually, you know what? Instead of saying schedule, I'm actually going to write down make time. You don't find time for this, you make time for this. Otherwise, you'll find yourself busy on the urgent. You'll find yourself in here if you don't make time. We say make time for the important but not urgent things that lead to growth. Okay, so we're getting a lovely diagram coming together so far here. Have just a brief think about now. It's like, where do I spend most of my time? Is it in one of the quadrants in particular? Is it in a particular column or a particular row? You might, depending on how your life is set up, there may be no urgency at all. And so you find yourself just bouncing between Q2 and Q4, depending on whether you're working on something that's important or not. Or maybe you're just constantly finding yourself in the not important row, or stuck here at busyness in Q3. Have a think about where it is. I suggest, if you don't know, and even if you think you do, it's worth actually keeping track for about a week about which quarter you're in for any given 15-minute, half an hour, or 1 hour block, and just see what the truth is. And then once you know where it is, you can then work on improving it. So speaking of improving it, I've talked about what to do in each of these quadrants, but what kind of things do you need to do differently? How do you need to think differently to move a bit more permanently from one quadrant to another? So to go from Q4 to Q3, go from urgent, not urgent, and not important, total waste of time, to move yourself to Q3, where it's not important but it's urgent. Is, instead of like wasting your time, it's like, give yourself some sort of a deadline or external pressure that creates urgency. So that's the main difference here, is that we're changing the urgency. So here we're talking about deadlines and accountability. Tell somebody you're going to do it by a certain time. Or, you know, if you're procrastinating on the launch of a new product or service, start telling people about a date sometime in the next few months when the service is going to launch. Start mentioning it in all of your marketing whenever you're talking to people, so that you've given some sort of you've created a deadline for it, and you've got some sort of external accountability. Because all those people who hear you say that, there's going to be a couple of them that when the deadline comes and goes would say, what happened to this thing you were doing? You told us it was going to happen on this particular date. So to get from Q4 to Q3 is you want to create some urgency. Next, to get yourself from Q3 up to Q1, getting yourself from feeling, a sense of busyness, like you're doing lots of things, but you don't seem to be moving forward, or you're too busy with the minutiae and fighting fires. You need to start focusing your time on the important stuff. You need to delegate and automate things. You need people to take care of the not important, urgent stuff. So it frees your time up for the important, urgent stuff. So for that, we're thinking delegate and automate, but also thinking that busy does not equal productive. That's the thing that's the mantra you need to embrace, is that being busy doesn't mean you're doing what's important. So making sure that you have some sort of a goal or a vision that you're aiming for, and ask yourself, is this urgent thing I'm doing actually going to help me get there? Or is it just something I have to do because, there's a deadline? Like, for example, filing taxes, doing your own tax returns and your own bookkeeping is a Q3 thing, because there's usually some sort of government deadline, or maybe you want to get a loan and your lender needs to see this stuff. There's an urgency to it eventually, but it's not really important. It's not going to get you towards your goals usually. So that's something, definitely delegate that. Now, to get from Q1 to Q2, from productive and important things, urgent and important things, from being productive to moving to the not urgent but important stuff and feeling more like growth. Making time is key, but when most people say it, it's like there's this expectation that there's free time that you could just take. There's like big empty spaces that you could just take. But what you actually have to do is you have to say no to some things. It's not so much creating time out of thin air, it's taking time away from something else. And so you need to kind of remind yourself that this isn't urgent, but it's important. It leads to growth. This is what's actually going to move me up towards my goals, and not just kind of maintain, like Q1's more of a maintenance thing. If I want to get to my goals, I'm going to have to take time away from something else so that I can work on this stuff. And something that's really helped me there is, again, referencing Tim Ferriss, the blog article he did called The Art of Letting Small Bad Things Happen. So I'm just going to say small bad things for this. And the idea is that sometimes to get the important stuff done, that's not urgent, like the stuff that's super important, that will definitely move your life forward, sometimes it means you have to take time away from something else, and that could cause a problem. But the point is, small problems can be fine if you're exchanging them for something a bit more worthwhile. So as an example, filing your taxes is an urgent thing. Eventually, there's a deadline. You got to file your taxes. And so maybe your tax accountant needs you to send some information or answer some questions or something like that. You could spend your time doing that and make sure your tax return gets lodged on time because your accountant has what they need. Or maybe your business needs you to work on something that's going to actually move it forward, that new product or service, or that new pricing scheme, or training somebody to take the delivery work off you so you're free to focus on other areas of your business. Things that don't have a deadline, but they will actually grow you and get you closer to your goals. Perhaps it's worth letting a tax return be late and pay a late fee even to make sure that you have time to move yourself closer to your goals. So that's why it's kind of like, that's where the idea of the small bad things happening is that you're paying a late fee and lodging your tax return late in order to move your business forward. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating not obeying tax deadlines. I'm just using that as an example that at this time of year is probably top of mind for at least the Australian part of my audience. And some of my American friends as well. So yeah, I'm not saying don't go with the deadlines, but just kind of keep in mind that sometimes you have to let small bad things happen in order to move the big things forward. So the one other thing if I want to be all symmetrical and complete. So I've got these arrows going around how to move you from one quadrant to the other. I don't really think it's worthwhile me putting an arrow here for you to go from Q2 down to Q4. But it's worth kind of mentioning that fun is in Q4 usually, or chilling out, goofing off with friends and family, like spending time with your children. For some people, I would argue that it's not in Q4, but you know, just mucking around with friends and purposeless time can be really important for like bonding with people and having deep relationships and really satisfying the social need within you. And that's all Q4 stuff. So I suppose I don't want to put an arrow there, but I do want to remind you that don't go too crazy with this. It's okay to spend a little bit of time in Q4. This is just to help if you feel like you're spending more time than is helpful, or you're not moving towards your goals, or you're not even maintaining the goals you've achieved. Then this can maybe help you move to the right quadrant. So have a think about, I guess the question for you then, now that we've gone through this Eisenhower matrix, the question for you is like, what are you doing most of the time with your time? Are you getting enough time in Q2? Are you spending too much in Q4? Maybe it's time for you to move from Q3 to Q1 by delegating or automating. Maybe it's you need to take time, let some small bad things happen. What is it for you? Let me know. I'm always curious to see. And have a think about which of these options do you need to maybe start thinking about. Do you need to put some deadlines or accountability in place? Or do you need to think a bit more like busy doesn't mean productive? Or do you need to let some small bad things happen? What's your plan? Now that you've had a little think about where you are, what's your plan to get to where you want to be? Have a think, let me know. And I hope this was helpful. The Eisenhower matrix, that productivity box thing. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.